Arsenal take on PSG in the first leg of the Champions League semi-final at the Emirates. I still cannot believe I'm saying that, man. I still can't. I mean, this is incredible. We've in 4 years we've gone from 15th at Christmas, laughing stock of England, to a Champions League semi-final. No other English team is here. We are representing the Premier League on the European stage. Unbelievable. But yeah, this is probably, I feel like I say this for every Champions League game now, but this is the biggest home game that we've had under this manager. We are 3 wins away from winning that trophy. If we win today, we will be one step closer from going to Munich and winning that Champions League. It's outrageous. But yeah, I'm nervous. This PSG side, we'll talk about everything. But this PSG side is quality. I mean, yeah, they are top notch. We really have to put in our best possible performance to beat them, because they're similar to us. They really are. I mean, that in terms of what their seasons look like, it's been inconsistent. It has. It's been inconsistent. However, it's different. They've been progressing over the course of the season. They started off not very good. I'm just more talking about Europe because I don't take that league seriously. In Europe, they were quite poor earlier in the season, finished in the playoff spot, but since then, they've been doing their business, beat 2 other English sides to get here, being Liverpool and Aston Villa, were phenomenal over 2 legs against Liverpool. And then really beat Aston Villa quite convincingly in the first leg. If we take a look at current form, I mean, overall, we have gotten the better of them in terms of form. We have 3 wins and 2 draws, unbeaten in those games. But you can't really take form for either team into it, because firstly, we're not playing for anything. It's really just those two wins against Real Madrid that we were actually playing our best team, trying our hardest, because, draws to Brentford and Crystal Palace. Overall, our form in the Premier League lately has been quite poor. Only 1 win in our last 4 Premier League games away at Ipswich. And PSG, I mean, they've got the 2 losses. Lost to Aston Villa in the second leg, but went through. And then their unbeaten run in Ligue 1 ended at home against Nice. That was their first loss of the season against a French side. They were, they have been trying to go for their own invincible season, undefeated season, and it's come to an end. Being invincible isn't for everyone. So yeah, you can't really look at form too much. Speaking of things that are irrelevant, I still think it would be interesting to look at the head-to-head between the 2 teams. The only game that has any shred of importance, of relevance, was when we beat them 2-0 earlier this season at the Emirates. Even then, though, both teams have changed significantly. We're without Kai Havertz now. We're going to be without Thomas Partey. We're without Gabriel. And we've seen, Lewis Skelly be implemented into the squad. We've seen Mikel Merino, take a move up front. So we've had a few changes, but PSG as well. Like, if I show you that 11, or if I take a look at that 11 that they had, it was very, very different. I mean, it's actually crazy the amount of change they've had. Firstly, Kvaratskhelia wasn't even at the club yet, and he's been one of their best players. Dembele wasn't playing. Fabian Ruiz wasn't playing. They had Doué on the right, whereas he's been more of a midfielder. And overall, they just weren't playing as good football. They weren't as defensively sound. They weren't scoring as many goals. They've just improved significantly, whereas I think with Arsenal, we've just been inconsistent the whole season. We've had really, really good nights in Europe, and then bad nights in the Premier League, and then we lose to Inter. We go through bad runs of form. It's just, it's really not great. And then the other 2 matchups, or the other games that we've had with them, we played them in the group stages, 16-17, 2 draws. And then the interesting one is the 93-94 season, we played them in the Cup Winners' Cup. I believe it was the semi-finals, but it was a knockout tie. We beat them over 2 legs. I can't remember the exact score, but I'm pretty sure we won at Highbury and then drew away. And what's really interesting about that is that since the previous tie, or the previous 2 games, were in the group stages, that was the last time we played PSG in a European knockout. Over 30 years ago. And we went on to win that competition. So I'm just saying. And we played them at home first. We played them at Highbury first, and then I think we drew away from home. So if we, once again, PSG at home, then away in a European knockout tie, I believe I'm pretty sure that one was a semi-final as well. So I don't know. No, it's completely irrelevant. I just thought it would be interesting to look at. But how do matchups work? Because you can't, as I said, you can't really look at form. Both teams have changed significantly since then. PSG more for the better, whereas we've lost some key players. I forgot to mention we also have Martin Odegaard back. And no Calafiori as well. So where could we potentially get some joy against this PSG side? Well, I think there's 2 key areas that is going to be a noteworthy matchup. But before I talk about that, let's just take a look at this 2-0 win. See how we sort of approach the game and what we can take from this. So the approach that we had to this game, is it in the stats? Yeah, as you can see, we sat off the ball, but didn't let them create anything. I honestly think it was very similar to the tie against Real Madrid, or the second leg against Real Madrid, the away leg, where, just let them have the ball, but they really don't create anything. Only the 0.4 XG, 10 shots, only 2 of them on target. We had more shots on target. I mean, we were quite clinical. 6 shots, 5 on target, 2 goals. Only the 1 big chance, which I believe was the one we scored. Yep, 0 missed. The first goal, it was a great ball from Trossard. Havertz puts it past Donnarumma. And the second goal, it was just a really unreal defensive error from PSG. I mean, Saka just whips that ball in. No one gets on the end of it, and it just sort of rolls in, bounces into the goal. So yeah, I think we could have a very similar approach where we just sort of play defensively, sit off the ball. The only difference is I don't see us limiting them to 0.4 XG. I don't see us doing that because their attack specifically, I mean, look at that attack. Barcola was sitting in Timber's pocket. He was actually in form for most of the season leading up to that point. He was doing really well. That was sort of his first real bad game. And then Lee and Doué is more played in midfield, and then they've had Dembele and Kvara. And that front 3, I just think it could trouble our defence, especially since we don't have Gabriel, but also just because they're so fluid. Madrid, they're very rigid. They don't really know where they're supposed to be. They're sort of they don't work well together. Whereas this PSG front 3, every time I've watched them, they move about. You'll see Kvara on the right, but then you'll see him cut in through the middle. You'll see Dembele drift. You'll see him drop deep. And I think that they're not all going to know exactly what their roles are. I'm talking about our defence. They're not all going to know where everyone's going to be the whole time. And that could trouble us. I think that that's one area that they could trouble us. But the two key things that I think is going to be interesting and will decide who wins this game. Firstly is the midfield. We are without Thomas Partey for this game. He foolishly got suspended, and I'll talk about what our midfield could look like. But 2 key players for us, and they didn't play in this game. 2 key players for us are Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard obviously is struggling for form lately. All season he's been, I think I speak for all Arsenal fans when I say that he's been disappointing. Whereas Declan Rice is the opposite. He was best player on the pitch by far over 2 legs against Real Madrid. And if you look at that PSG midfield, when we played them, they had Neves, Vitinha, and Zaire Emery. They weren't really working well together. They're just all great technical players. But I think now that they've got Fabian Ruiz there, we could also see Doué in midfield. Now that they've got those two players playing there, they offer a lot more. I don't know. They offer, especially Fabian Ruiz. The midfield is so much better physically. They can still win the ball. They can still actually win their duels, and I feel like it's a much more well-rounded midfield, and it's actually improved Neves and Vitinha. That they don't have as much responsibility physically, especially Vitinha. So having Fabian Ruiz is big for them. And I think Declan Rice, he might be able to just make the most out of... They were to make the most out of the physical duels. They're able to... He'll be able to, physically impose himself on the game. And then Odegaard, we need him to be the creative spark, We need him to... We need him to outshine these PSG these PSG midfielders. We need him to show up, and I think that midfield area is it's so big for us if we're going to win this game. It's so big. We need big performances from both of them, and then whoever else we see in midfield. But I will talk about that towards the end of the video. The other one, and this is the big worry for me, the flanks, specifically the left. On the right, I think Saka and Timber are two of the... we have one of the best right-hand sides in Europe. Obviously, Odegaard, one thing he has done well is he's been there to offer support, link up with Saka well. That's one thing that they've had. But they've got big matchups, man. Timber did so well against Barcola last time, but if we see Kvara drifting out to the left, if we see Dembele helping, they could potentially catch Timber out. He is one of the best 1v1 defenders. He can go 1v1. He can beat you in the air, and he can go forward. I'm talking about overlap with Saka, offer that support. Not to the same level Ben White can, but he is good at it. And then Saka, I think he's coming up against the best left back in the world. I really do. I think that the Mendes on current form has been so good, especially against PSG. Against Aston Villa. So that's a huge matchup. Can Saka get any sort of joy against Mendes? I thought he probably was the better of the two when we played PSG earlier in the season. But again, Neves has improved. What am I talking about? Mendes has improved, and Saka, we don't know if he's playing at 100% yet. I don't think he was 100% against Real Madrid. Is he going to be at the same level? He actually captained us in that game because Odegaard was out. So that'll be interesting. But then the left-hand side's the worry. Skelly has proven me wrong every time I've said this, but I still don't know if he is ready for these big games. He proved it against Madrid, but overall they just weren't very good. Rodrigo, I think he's gone 20 games without scoring, which is horrid. Whereas Kvara is in form. Dembele is in form. If they really attack him on that right-hand side, he could, he's still a young guy. He's not traditionally a left-back, so he could, get caught out. I'm actually wondering if we could potentially see a Tierney play. I will talk about what my preferred 11 is at the end, as I said. But yeah, I'm not trying to hate on Lewis Skelly. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's been sensational. But this is another big test. Can he do? And then I think the matchup that's the most one-sided is Martinelli Hakimi. I think the Martinelli is actually gonna be more important for us defensively because Hakimi is one of the best attacking fullbacks on the planet, maybe behind Trent. Because he offers a threat. He offers a wide threat along the flank. When we see Kvara, cut in, he'll be bombing down and sending those balls. And say what you want about Martinelli technically, say what you want about his finishing, say what you want about him in the final third, but he's got work rate. He tracks back, he marks his fullback. Valverde, he was up against Valverde. I thought he did pretty well against Valverde, and then I think Vasquez played a bite back in the second leg, and he did well against Vasquez. So I think that he could actually be key in limiting any output from Achraf Hakimi. It's just, look, he scored in the last game. Can he get on the score sheet? Maybe late in the game. He's got the legs, he's got the work rate. I'll be interested to see, but yeah, it's an interesting matchup. It really is. I'm very excited to see how he approaches this game. As I said, I feel like we'll sort of let PSG sit on the ball a bit. Without Thomas Partey, it's gonna be it's gonna be rough. But how do I want us to line up against PSG? I'll put it on the screen now. Probably there. That's the lineup I want us to go with. As you can see, obviously Raya stays in goal. The back four is the same. I think Skelly should keep his spot. There was one thing I wanted us to do against Crystal Palace and just try it out, which was play Skelly in midfield. But we didn't do that, and I wouldn't want it to happen for the first time in a game like this. If we did a job in midfield, then maybe. But since we just haven't really seen it, I'm not expecting that. I think he's going to go with the same back four. I don't even think Ben White's available. He wasn't playing against Palace, but I believe that was because he just had a baby. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure he just had a baby. So he's probably fit. He could come back. I didn't even touch on the injury situation, by the way. We are without Havertz, without Calafiori. Thomas Partey is suspended, as I said. Who else are we missing? Missing heaps of players, bro. We're missing heaps of players. Let me have a look. Who else we got out? Obviously, Jesus and Tomiyasu are non-existent. I mentioned Gabriel before, and Jorginho. So we could potentially see Jorginho come in. We could have if he was fit. I'd probably go for Jorginho if he was fit, but instead I'll put Marino there and put Trossard up front. I don't want to. I've made my thoughts about Trossard very clear this season. I really don't think he's been good. But to be fair, he has scored in his last 2 games. He's got 3 goals in his last 2 games. So you know what? Fair play. Fair play. He's earned his spot. He was actually good against them last time, but he was playing more in the 10 because we had... It was when we were playing like a 4-4-2, but we had him operating behind Havertz more as a second striker. It didn't really work at all. It was really just that PSG game where it worked, if I'm being honest. And then the front 3 I'm keeping, and then obviously Saka and Martinelli say the same. So that is the lineup that I think we will go with. It's the lineup I want to go with. It's probably the most likely, if I'm looking on FOTMob right now, that is the FOTMob predicted lineup. And then PSG, I mean, that looks pretty normal. I'm expecting Donnarumma, Hakimi, Marquinhos and Pacho with Mendes, and then Ruiz, Vitinha, Neves. I'm interested to see where they play Doué, because he won't play on the right. They'll put Kvara there, and they'll put Barcola on the left. So I'm interested to see if Doué starts, if he comes off the bench, what happens there. He's been in great form. That guy is a real talent. But now for the prediction. I honestly don't know where to go with this. I think anything can happen. This is going to be such a tight affair. There are Arsenal fans. They're getting too ahead of themselves that think that we're going to win this convincingly, comfortably, that we're going to go through easy. And then there are people that are writing us off because of the form PSG are in. I'm going to go, and I hate saying it, I don't think we're going to win. I don't think we're going to win this first leg. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think it'll be a very contained game. It won't be like Madrid. We're not going to have much joy attacking-wise. We just have to take our chances. And I don't know if we have enough outside of Saka to really get at PSG. And I'd say Mendes is their best player defensively. They've got a nice, solid back 5. But yeah, I'm going to go with the 1-1. It might be negative. But you know what? At the end of the day, I actually think that it wouldn't be that bad a result. I think the games like this kind of suit us because usually I am more fond of playing the first leg away from home, which means that we can just, there's not a whole lot of pressure on us to get a win or to get a big result, and then we've got the home leg second in front of all our fans. Then if it goes to extra time or penalties, Whereas feel like for this team, it's more the other way around because we can close out games well. We're good at managing games. There is more pressure on the home leg, but it then means that if we do win, that we can go away from home and we can be resolute defensively. We could not concede goals. So I honestly believe that we really have to win this game. I think that if we draw, it'll be very difficult for us to go through because obviously that's just logical. You're obviously going to be better at home than you are away from home, and if you don't win at home, then why would you win away? I know it's very, it's a very simple explanation. It's not there. Obviously, you can win away from home if you draw at home. Look at us against West Ham. We smashed them 5. Last 2 seasons, we've scored 11 goals in 2 games away from home. Haven't scored against them at home. Lost both home games. So obviously that's wrong. But you know what? There's no reason why we can't win. I'm just gonna go with a 1-1. I don't think it'll be exciting attacking wise. I don't think there'll be a whole lot of goals. But it'll be interesting to see how these teams come up against each other. Leave your predictions in the comments below. Tell me how you think we're going to go in this game. Tell me some key players. I think our most key player in this game is going to be Declan Rice. I think if he can really, really dominate that midfield and limit any chance creation from PSG, then we can get some form of joy. We can. We really can. We'll have to absorb the pressure, hit them on the break. Let's see what we can do. Come on, you Gunners.